Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us here today. I am Nancy Mason. I'm the director of the Muskogee Nation Youth Services Program, and I just want to thank you for joining us for our Muskogee Youth Talks about CASA today. Just a little bit about our program is that our mission is to empower Muskogee youth by connecting to culture, community, and resources. And these are a few of our program goals. We try to foster advocacy. We do this with work with our youth council, trying to provide leadership opportunities and those type of things. Providing resources is a major part of our program where we do have a resource book. We have online resources available, and we also try to promote those within our social media platforms. Promoting civic duty is another one. So, really trying to educate young people about how they can be engaged in the political system and making their voices count. Encouraging wellness is probably the biggest portion of our program where most of our services fall in. We try to focus on the concept that culture is prevention. So, connecting young people to their culture to help them to be more resilient and be successful adults. And then, last but not least, is creating support. And that is we have a Muskogee Mentors program that we've just begun piloting in the last few months. And then also just creating support for young people and families as they are continuing to grow. Through our advocacy, we also try to promote issues that create awareness for other people. And so foster care is one of those issues that we're pretty passionate about in our office. And so today we have a presentation with our local CASA program. But before we get going, I want to show a video that it will introduce you a little bit to CASA.
I had to pack up all my things.
So I want to introduce now my friend Denise McCrary, and I'll let her tell you about herself. Denise?
Thank you, Nancy. Hello, my name is Denise McQuarrie, and I am the advocate coordinator, volunteer coordinator here at the Okmulgee County and Creek Nation CASA program. And my job is to recruit and train volunteers and get them assigned to cases so that they can speak up for the children that are in the court system and in the child welfare system due to child abuse and neglect. A little bit more about myself. I did this job for 6 years, and then I went to work at Creek Nation, and I worked there for 10 years as a victim advocate. And now I've been back here for 3 years. So I've had 6 years experience in this. And you might ask yourself, what is CASA? CASA stands, C-A-S-A, all capitals. CASA stands for Court Appointed Special Advocate. And court-appointed special advocates or CASA advocates speak up for the best interests of a child. They change a child's story. That is our thing, change a child's story. And so many children's stories could come out so totally different if it didn't have a CASA. And so with the CASA, we go through a screening process. You need to be 21, you make an application, we do background checks, and we also do child welfare background checks. And so then we do an interview with you, and then also we call and or do references on you and make sure that you would be a good fit possibly to work with the youth and children that we work with. CASA children are anywhere from newborn to they age out at age 18. So anyone could be working with, you could work with any child across that spectrum, or you could work with kids, one child, sibling group, different things like that. Now, a CASA, once you come and get screened, we set up training programs for you. And so we usually like to have about 4 or 5 people in training. And there's one training program called Flex. Flex learning is you do 5 weeks online, and once a week for 5 weeks, you come into our office for 2 to 3 hours to kind of put that stuff together as a group. And then you'll do courtroom observation, about 3 hours of that. And then we'll have the judge swear you in, and then you'll be ready to take on a case. So the cases come to me through the judge. The cases come through DHS suggestion, or if I'm in court and I hear about a case that possibly needs a CASA, that's how we get those. And I'm going to back up a little bit. I got ahead of myself. CASA was created back in the 70s, 1977 to be exact, back in Seattle, Washington. And Judge David Mvskoke was the judge that created this program. He wanted a group of civic-minded people from the community to make sure that children did not fall through the cracks when they were in the child welfare system, foster care, and in the court system. So he created that program back in 1977. And now there's 950 programs across the United States, in 49 states, and in Washington, D.C. as well. And in 1982, CASA became a national program, and it's headquartered in Seattle still to this day. Also in 1987, the Oklahoma CASA Association was created, and in that same year, Okmulgee County set up the Okmulgee County Creek Nation CASA program. And when we started out, we had an office at the complex at child welfare out at Creek Nation. And then our program outgrew that office. So then not judge, but attorney Thomas Stringer gave us a place in Henrietta for a little bit. And then Creek Nation approved a purchase of a 16-room Victorian house that was down on West 7th Street, which is now part of the parking lot for the Okmulgee County Library before we came to where we are now. So we have deep ties and connections with Creek Nation. We do go to court in Creek Nation. Right now we do not, because we try to keep our advocates with cases where the kids are placed in Okmulgee County, and with Creek Nation having an 11 county jurisdiction, they are just all over the place. And we're just not able to do that right now. But I know that almost half of the children in the state court system and our county court system are Native American. So this last year, or I should say currently, there's 197 children in the foster care court system. Of that, 87 of them are Native Americans. We, meaning CASA, served 75 children this past year, from last May to this May. And of those, about 30 of them were Native American children. So there is a great need to have people to advocate for not only our tribe, the Creek tribe, but for other tribes that are in this area. Now, Creek tribe had the opportunity to be in Creek court if that's possible, but other tribes need some advocacy around here in this area, and they may be from Citizen Potawatomi, they may be Choctaw, Chickasaw. So we do need volunteers to be able to speak up for them. And if it doesn't matter to you, it's a good thing to advocate for your own tribe, for your own people, but kids in general just need someone, an adult that's going to be consistent, to be there for them. DHS and tribal child welfare, they have so many cases compared to what we have, and sometimes they just can't get everything taken care of. Now, when we are there to see when things are going on or if there's a need, it's all about the children. We speak up for the child. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks or what anybody else wants, as long as we know that the child's best interest is taken care of. And sometimes people don't agree with that, what we think. Sometimes people do agree with it, but we got to be willing to stand for these children and to change their story by doing the best we can for them. You know, at some point, you after you do your training and you get sworn in and you get a case. So you're going to visit that child once a month, but you're going to also make sure you check in with the parents, see what the parents are doing, check in with the service providers, see if they're doing, there may be drug treatment, maybe mental health treatment, if they've gotten a job, if they have a nice, clean place to live. And so we need to do that, because when we go to court, we write a report which becomes a legal document, becomes a part of that case for forever. And in that, we're going to tell the judge what happened from one court date to the next court date, and if there's any concerns or recommendations to be made. And at some point, we have to make a recommendation that possibly the children go home, or possibly the kids are terminated on. The parents' rights are terminated, or maybe it's going to be a long-term foster care or a guardianship situation. We cannot do that if we don't know what the parents are up to and what they've done, if they've corrected the conditions that led the children into coming into the system. And CASA comes into the program after the children have been, and I'm going to use this word, adjudicated, which means they have been adjudicated deprived. Yes, there is a reason they are in the system, and we're going to keep them in the system. And then we'll have another hearing, which is called disposition. And this is when the parents get their service plan. These are the things you have to do to correct the conditions to let the kids coming into the system. And that's when I have you put on the case, and we'll start on working on it. And I have to be honest with you, it is a long-term commitment. It is, some kids can be 6 months, a year, year and a half, 2 years. And if children spend 16 consecutive out of the last 22 months in care, the law says we can move towards termination. And so these are things we're looking at. And if you ever think that you want to become a CASA volunteer, you can always call and ask questions. You can talk to me. I'll give you as much information as I can to help you make that decision. I would love to have everybody come in and just be a volunteer, but for some people, this is just not for them. And
we have lost Denise's connection. Maybe she'll come back in just a second. I know in my working with the CASA program in previous jobs that I've had, it's been a really helpful piece of the puzzle in working with that young person. There she is. We got you back. Yeah, good. It just froze for a second, but we got you. I was just kind of sharing how, like, as a caseworker formerly, in having that CASA, sometimes, like you said, it was a matter of we didn't have the opportunity to always get the same information that the CASA worker was able to. You had sometimes more opportunity to visit with the kids, and they have a more trusting relationship with their CASA, where they're able to talk to them and tell them how they're feeling and the things that they're wanting to happen within their case. And so it was always such a great bonus, like I said, for the cases. So yeah, go ahead. And I'm not sure exactly where you were when it froze, but we'll keep
You know, I just know I was just talking about it is a commitment and you have to be dedicated to it. It'll be tough, but it's worse for the children that are in this. They didn't create this situation for themselves, and they really need someone to change their outcome, to change their story, because they can easily complete this cycle that goes on in families, and they'll grow up to be back in the system, just like their parents was and their parents before them. And so we really want to be able to change that for them. And like with the children, you know, sometimes there may be something that is missed that a child needs. I had a volunteer on a case that she was really concerned maybe the child was having hearing problems because of his speech, and they did test him and he was fine. And it was just because of the situation he lived in. And then there was one lady that was not able to get her grandchild, and she was foster mom, into Head Start, and our volunteer facilitated that situation for him. So we see things and we're able to bring things to light, and make sure that the children are getting exactly what they need to be have that equity to be able to do well in life, because they're already on a negative playing field as compared to the other children. So we want to make sure that we see everything that they need and make sure that they're getting everything that they can get to be the best that they can be.
That's good. We already have a few questions coming in, and so I'll bring those up. I have one I wanted to just follow up when you talked about that commitment for a CASA volunteer. Do you know, like kind of on average, how much time, like in a month or a week, that a CASA volunteer might be required or may have, you know, the need to put into working on a case?
Well, for one, we want to make sure that every month you see your children face to face. And that has to be in person. And right now we have some restrictions and guidelines because of the COVID-19. We do that by FaceTime or any other kind of video app that we are able to do that. But so we have, until those restrictions are lifted, I'm sorry, my boss just popped in. And so restrictions are lifted, we'll go by that. But we like you to see the children face to face, at least once a month. A lot of things can be done by phone and by email, and so you can call. I might have a volunteer that does 16 hours in a month, and I might have a volunteer that does 3 hours in a month, just because those are their personalities and what they follow through with and how they talk with the foster parents or the kids, and depending on the age. So you can kind of control that a little bit, but as far as physically being there, it would be to see the children at least once a month. And I don't mean for 25 or 30, try to do that hour and a half, maybe, just whatever you can get in there. And you can see them more than once a month. So it's kind of flexible, it's doable. Now, when we have court, you'll have a little more time. And court, like I said, you don't have to worry about court every week because everybody has jobs and different things. Court is usually once every 3 months. And then there's family team meetings, and those are not very often, maybe 6 months or so. So it's not like you will have to take off a whole lot.
Gotcha. Okay, good. So a question we have from our viewers is, if someone wanted to become a CASA advocate in Oklahoma, would they be able to be an advocate in a different state if they ended up moving at some point?
I believe that they would be able to, but I'm not quite sure. I've never had that happen or that question. But certainly what you can do if you move to another state and you say you want to contact that CASA program and say, hey, I was a CASA in blah, blah, blah state. I want to be a CASA here. I'm sure there are certain things that are a little different. And because there's sometimes people are called different things within the court system. Law enforcement are called different things, just like a sheriff is called a constable in Texas. So it would be a little different. And as far as learning different laws and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it would be a little bit different, but I think you might have to do a little bit to bridge it. But I can always check into that if you can become a CASA and then you want to leave. If you want me to make some phone calls, I will certainly check that out.
Yeah, that's a really great question, because that does happen sometimes where people want to continue something that they've already started, been involved in. And so, yeah, I think that's a great question. I also wanted to go back to when you were talking about some of the numbers of young people that are in care. That's just in Okmulgee County, it was around 200 young people in care, and about half of that were Native American youth.
Yes.
Yeah, so that just is just kind of an overwhelming number if you think about just even 200 to begin with, young people. And then the great need we have for Native Americans to become CASAs so that can help make connections to their tribes and that kind of thing. And even if you were a different tribe, there's ways that a CASA volunteer could actually get information from a tribe for a young person and help to facilitate that. So
there's even tribal activities, sometimes some of the kids may need some traditional connections or just connection to other Native Americans. It's just like that with every race. So that would be so awesome to have someone to probably kind of know where you're coming from.
Right. Yeah, that's good. I think those were a couple questions I already wrote down for myself. Audience, if you have any additional questions, feel free to put that in the question and answer or in the chat. I'll be monitoring that and we can respond as we go along. Denise, have you kind of talked about there's like different ways that a case can be successful. Kids can go back home with their family. Maybe they find another permanent living situation, and to create permanency for them. You've had success cases that I know that you've worked on. Could you talk about one of those cases and kind of maybe just a little bit of how it happened, your involvement, and then the outcome for that family?
Yes, I'll have to tell you that the variety, most of our programs, most of the kids in custody are in there because of neglect.
Yeah.
And they get neglected because of drugs and domestic violence and alcoholism. That's what I see my experience is in Okmulgee County. There is physical abuse, there is sexual abuse, and then there's neglect. But all those happen in Okmulgee County, but that's just been mostly my experience. So when I was initially here the first time, the coordinators were allowed to take cases. So I had a mom and a dad who were drug users, and they also were, there was domestic violence. So the children came into the system. It was a daughter and son, sister and brother, and they became my CASA children. And both of them are now grown and married. They went home. I believe they went home mom. Actually, yes, they did. And she is remarried. She hasn't used in years. I don't know where dad is, but both the children are married with children and doing a wonderful, wonderful job with them. And that's just one of our many success stories.
That's good. That's good. And what were some of the things that you were able to do with those young people in your work as a volunteer, CASA volunteer?
We used to be able to go out and have a pop or something like that, but we can't do that anymore. But you can always take games, books, coloring, activities, movie, different things. You can just, maybe the foster parent can meet you at the park and y'all can play. It's just so many different things that you can do with the kids. And once you get them active in something or kind of on their own level, down on their level with them, then they're going to put more trust in you and then while you have them engaged in something, then they're going to become more open with you and relaxed, and you watch what you say to them because they will hold you to what you say. And we do have like a granny's closet where we can give little gifts to the children. We don't want the volunteers to buy anything or give any money, but we have a granny's closet that we have things for the children for special occasions. And especially when you first go out, we'll take them something and kind of just break that ice.
So that's interesting that you have that closet to, help the volunteers have things. Is that another way that people can contribute to the CASA program? So maybe they aren't able to be a CASA, but could they help supply items for that closet?
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah.
Absolutely. They can donate things. We don't want guns or anything, like that. But they can donate for boys and girls of all ages. And sometimes if the kid's mom is having or dad is having a birthday, if we have something to give them and that kid can give it to them, but absolutely. And I have to say that Granny's Closet, that came about, someone donated money for us to have area for Granny's Closet. Granny was a CASA volunteer and her name was Janita Roeder, and she was absolutely fabulous. And she was an elder and she was a good volunteer and she was a firecracker, and that was in her honor. So we have Granny's Closet to be able to do those things for our children through the volunteers. So that's
awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, good.
And we do have a training coming up in May.
Yeah.
It's going to be online, all online, and it'll start May 18th, I believe. I might be a little early on that, might be further in the month. And you can always call me, ask more questions about it. And yes, begins May 18th. And you can ask questions about it and pray about it, whatever, talk about it to someone. If you want to become a volunteer or start working on it, that would be so awesome. And I would love to have you. And if you're going to be a volunteer in Okmulgee County, then I would be your coordinator. We do have a program in Creek County. And so they do some training there, and whoever they train over there, they go with the Creek County coordinators, but I'm the only coordinator here in this county. So I would be your supervisor.
Awesome, that's good.
And we're real big on confidentiality and conflict of interest. So everything you do and say has to be held confidential. CASAs are sponges. We draw up, we suck it in, but we don't squeeze it out unless it's something that really needs to be said for the best interest of the child. And so we definitely want to do that, keep everything confidential. And I know in our community, everybody knows everybody who's related and all that stuff. So we do keep this stuff confident. Even when you do your interviews and application to become a volunteer, we do keep that stuff confidential as well. And conflict of interest. If they're your next door neighbor, if there's somebody you know, your best friend's cousin, anything like that, please let us know and we'll make sure to get you on another case, because we don't want to create any more problems for the children or anything for anyone that becomes a volunteer either.
That's good. I love that visualization of the sponge. That's a great way to describe confidentiality. I really like that.
Yes. So most definitely. And the 30 hours, it's 30 hours of training, and then 3 hours of courtroom observation. And also we do 12 hours a year to each year after that. So that first year, if you take your 30 hours, you're good for the year. But if you want to do some of the ongoing in-service week training we do, then you're welcome to. But then that you start into the second year, then you're 12 hours.
Okay. So initially then they would do these 5 weeks of training, that 3 hours of courtroom observation when that's available again. And then later on in the year, they'll finish up the 30 hours?
No, this will be the 30 hours.
Oh, okay. Well, obviously I can't add. Oh, it's 2 days on there. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
The 5 weeks this will be the 30 hours. And right now everything's online. At some point we may go back to the flex where it's part online and part in person, but right now we're not able to do that. And
Gotcha.
Ensure everybody's safety and health. So we don't want to put anybody at risk. And like I said, we're not visiting children right now physically, just through FaceTime until the national programs, National CASA lift that.
Good deal. So for someone to start this training that's coming up soon, what do they need to do? Contact you, and what things do they need to provide?
They can contact me and I will email them a application. They can go to our CASA Facebook page, Okmulgee County and Creek Nation CASA. And there is a link for application on that. And once I get it, I'm going to call them and set up a day and time to talk to them over the phone and do an interview for right now. And then I will send them out some papers to sign for background checks. We do confidentiality. We do violent offenders checks. We have a lot of papers for them to sign. So, and that will get everything started there.
Okay, sounds good. That's great. I want to back up really quickly. You mentioned the theme, kind of the focus for CASA as Change a Child's Story. That used to be something different in the past. So tell us a little bit more about the Change a Child's Story.
Well, and we used to say, speak up for children, and we're going to always do that, or I am for the child, and we're going to always be that. But it's not so or I speak up, but it's like, change this child's story, change this outcome. Because when kids are this age, this is the time to step in their lives, whether you're a mentor, whether you're boys and girls, whether you're CASA, or just somebody next door at church. This is the time to make a difference in their lives and change the direction that they could go into an awesome future for them. The children need to know the world is theirs and they can do absolutely anything despite their background, despite the things that they went through, and the reason they are in these situations, it's not their fault. So we can change their story. We can give them that equity to get to a better place.
Okay, awesome. That's great. I definitely like that focus and helping a young person's outcomes change. We've got up here listed contact information for the CASA program. You see their phone number there, 918-756-2549. 2 email addresses. So Miranda is out of the Creek County and Denise is for Okmulgee County. So you can contact either of those emails. And then this @OKM CASA will get you to their Facebook page if you're looking for that, to get that application, get sent into Denise. That's a great way to do that. Anything else about contact information or anything else you'd want to share there, Denise?
Well, let me tell you, if you happen to be listening and you say, well, I live closer to Creek County, then Miranda, her phone number is 918-224-6492. Again, Miranda Rackers is 918-224-6492. And if you happen to call me because you forget it, I'll get the information to her. Don't you worry about it. We will make sure that it gets to the right person. And we appreciate all our CASA volunteers and we just love them. And we have fun activities sometimes. We did a painting party back in December and we did snowmen. It was quite a mess and we had fun. So we try to help you to decompress from what this job requires of you.
Good. Self-care is important. We know that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Good.
If you don't take care of yourself, no one will.
Great. Denise, any final words?
I'm just so happy to have this opportunity to speak to you all. And I was really nervous. So I hope you all learned something from it. And if it was something wasn't clear, please contact me. You're more than welcome to do that. And I think it's awesome. It's an awesome thing what the Youth Services of Creek Nation is doing.
Good deal. Thanks. I just want to provide our contact info there also, how to reach our office through our phone, email address, and then our website. We have other webinars that'll be happening throughout the month. So go there and check out our events page, and our calendar has lots of activities and webinars that you can listen to throughout the month of May and maybe in the future too. Hopefully we'll go back to normal one of these days. So Denise, again, I want to thank you for being with us today. Great information. I hope that you get lots of people interested in being CASAs. I'm already in my head thinking, okay, do I have enough time to do this? Because I think it's something I've wanted to do before, and I always think, man, I just don't have enough time to commit to that. But you got my brain and my heart thinking. So you might be getting an application from Nancy Mason. Look for it.
Oh, you would be awesome. And I'm sure that anybody that works with you would be awesome as well.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It would be a really great experience, I think. So I would definitely encourage folks to think about it. And then at the same time, think about that, like, can you keep that commitment? Because it's not going to be something you can just jump into and then leave, because that young person is going to be depending on you. Yes. So yeah. All right. Thanks everybody for joining us today.
Bye-bye.
Bye.